Long before vast cities rose from the jungles of Mesoamerica, before towering pyramids reached toward the heavens, and before empires ruled millions across the Americas, a remarkable transformation was already taking place inside a single seed. Today, corn, known scientifically as maize, covers millions of hectares and feeds billions of people around the world. It seems so familiar that it is easy to forget one astonishing fact. This plant could never have existed without human hands. Unlike wheat or rice, wild maize was never abundant across the landscape. Its ancient ancestor looked nothing like the towering stalks we know today. It produced only a handful of hard kernels, hidden inside tiny seed cases, offering little promise to anyone searching for food. Yet somewhere in the valleys of southern Mexico, thousands of years ago, people saw potential where nature offered almost none. Generation after generation, they selected the strongest plants, saved the best seeds, and unknowingly began one of the greatest biological partnerships in history. As maize changed under human care, humanity changed alongside it.
Permanent villages appeared where families once wandered. Populations expanded. Great ceremonial centers emerged from forests and fertile valleys. Entire civilizations learned to organize their lives around the rhythm of planting and harvest. The Maya, the Olmec, the Zapotec, the Aztec, the Inca, and countless other cultures would eventually build their worlds upon this extraordinary crop. Without maize, the history of the Americas would have unfolded along an entirely different path. To understand how one wild grass became the foundation of continents, we must travel back nearly 10,000 years to a forgotten landscape where the future of an entire hemisphere rested inside a single fragile seed. Long before cities, temples, or kingdoms appeared anywhere in the Americas, the land was ruled by nature alone. Dense forests covered the mountains of southern Mexico. Vast grasslands stretched across the plains, and rivers carved their way through fertile valleys where countless wild plants struggled to survive. Humanity was only one small part of this immense ecosystem. More than 9,000 years ago, the people who lived here were hunter-gatherers. They followed seasonal migrations, gathered edible plants, hunted deer and small game, and relied entirely on what the land freely provided. Every season demanded movement, for no single place could sustain life throughout the year. Among the thousands of grasses growing across these landscapes was a small, unremarkable plant called teosinte. At first glance, it bore almost no resemblance to modern corn. Its thin stalks carried only a few hard kernels, each protected by a tough shell that made them difficult to eat. Few could have imagined that this humble grass would one day feed entire civilizations. Nature had shaped the teosinte for survival, not abundance. When its seeds ripened, they scattered easily across the ground, allowing new plants to grow wherever the wind, animals, or rain carried them. It was perfectly adapted to the wild, but completely unsuitable for farming. As the last ice age gradually faded, the climate across Mesoamerica became warmer and more stable. Rainfall patterns shifted, forests expanded, and fertile valleys supported an increasing diversity of plants and animals. These environmental changes created new opportunities for both nature and the people who depended upon it. Season after season, families returned to the same valleys, learning which plants produced dependable food. Through careful observation, they began recognizing familiar growing places and understanding the cycles of rainfall, sunlight, and harvest. Knowledge passed from one generation to the next, becoming one of humanity's greatest survival tools.
Although they believed they were simply gathering food, these early people were unknowingly forming a relationship with teosinte. Every harvest taught them which plants produced larger seeds, stronger stalks, or ripened more reliably. Nature was slowly revealing possibilities hidden within the tiny grass. At this stage, neither humans nor teosinte had changed very much, yet both stood at the edge of an extraordinary partnership. A series of small choices made over countless generations would soon begin transforming not only the plant itself, but also the destiny of an entire continent. Long before the first village was built, before agriculture had a name, and before anyone imagined kingdoms rising across the Americas, the story of maize had already begun. Deep within the fertile valleys of ancient Mexico, a wild grass waited patiently for humanity to unlock its hidden potential.
For thousands of years, the people of ancient Mesoamerica gathered teosinte just as nature had provided it. Its small, hard kernels required patience to collect, yet careful observation slowly revealed something remarkable. Certain plants consistently produced larger seeds, stronger stalks, or remained intact longer before scattering their grain. Early gatherers began harvesting these exceptional plants first. Using simple stone blades and woven baskets, they collected the ripest seed heads before birds and animals could claim them. What began as a routine search for food gradually became a deliberate act of selection, guided by memory and experience. As families carried their harvests back to seasonal camps, not every seed was eaten. Some were stored for future meals, while others were accidentally dropped near campsites or discarded with plant waste. When the rainy season returned, fresh shoots emerged in places where people had recently lived, quietly revealing a powerful natural pattern.
At first, the connection may have seemed like a coincidence, but over many generations, people recognized that seeds placed in fertile soil often returned as new plants. Nature was revealing one of its greatest secrets, not through sudden invention, but through careful observation, repeated season after season. Communities slowly began planting selected seeds near their camps rather than relying entirely on wild patches. For the first time, people were not simply gathering what nature offered, they were encouraging it to grow where they wanted. This subtle change marked one of the earliest steps toward agriculture in the Americas. As planting became more intentional, another transformation quietly unfolded. Families repeatedly chose seeds from plants with larger ears, softer kernels, and stalks that held their grain instead of scattering it. Generation after generation, these choices gradually reshaped teosinte into something entirely new.
The plant itself began evolving alongside its human caretakers. Ears became larger, kernels more numerous, and seeds remained attached until harvest, making cultivation far easier. Without understanding genetics, these early farmers were carrying out one of the world's first and most remarkable experiments in selective breeding. The need to care for growing crops encouraged people to remain near their fields for longer periods each year. Temporary camps became seasonal settlements, and familiar landscapes slowly transformed into places of return rather than places of passing. Stability began replacing constant movement. What started as the simple act of saving a handful of seeds became a partnership that would forever change the Americas. In shaping teosinte into maize, humanity also reshaped its own future. Villages, civilizations, monumental cities, and powerful empires all began with one quiet discovery: that a tiny wild grass could be transformed into the foundation of an entire world.
The first cultivated fields of maize did far more than produce food. They transformed the rhythm of human life.
For the first time, families had a reason to remain in one place, tending the crops they had planted and waiting for harvests that would determine the future of their communities. Season after season, temporary camps slowly became permanent settlements. Simple shelters of wood, clay, and thatch replaced temporary structures built for only a few weeks. Across the fertile valleys of Mesoamerica, small farming villages began to appear, each rooted in the dependable cycle of planting and harvesting maize. Reliable harvests brought something humanity had rarely experienced before: surplus. After feeding their families, farmers found they still had baskets of dried maize to store. Carefully built granaries protected the precious grain from moisture, insects, and hungry animals, allowing food to last through difficult seasons and unexpected droughts.
This stored abundance transformed society. Survival was no longer measured one hunt or one season at a time. Communities could prepare for the future, support larger populations, and recover more easily from years of poor harvest. As food security increased, villages expanded into thriving centers of human activity. Because maize could feed many people consistently, not everyone needed to spend every day searching for food. Some became skilled potters, crafting storage vessels, while others shaped stone tools, wove textiles, carved ceremonial objects, or built stronger homes. Specialized occupations began to emerge, laying the foundations of increasingly complex societies. As neighboring villages prospered, they began exchanging surplus maize for obsidian, salt, pottery, shells, jade, and other valuable resources unavailable in their own regions. Footpaths connecting farming communities gradually evolved into active trade routes, carrying not only goods, but also ideas, technologies, beliefs, and traditions across Mesoamerica.
Growing populations required greater cooperation. Families worked together to prepare fields, manage irrigation where needed, protect harvests, and organize communal labor. Elders and respected leaders helped settle disputes and coordinate shared responsibilities, giving rise to the earliest forms of organized governance. Yet the greatest transformation was taking place within human society itself. Maize had quietly changed how people planned their lives, raised their children, shared resources, and imagined the future. The annual cycle of planting and harvest became the heartbeat of civilization, replacing the uncertainty of constant migration with the stability of settled life. From a humble wild grass, once growing unnoticed across the valleys of southern Mexico, an entirely new chapter of human history had begun. Villages would grow into ceremonial centers into magnificent cities, and powerful civilizations would soon rise upon foundations built not of stone alone, but of countless maize seeds, carefully planted, nurtured, and harvested across generations.
As farming villages expanded into thriving cities, maize became far more than a source of food. It became the foundation of power. A ruler's strength was measured not only by the size of an army, but by the harvests that filled the storehouses. Those who controlled maize could feed workers, sustain soldiers, and support entire civilizations. Across the fertile valleys and tropical lowlands of Mesoamerica, fields of maize stretched toward the horizon. Farmers carefully followed the seasonal rains, planting with remarkable precision and harvesting beneath the warm sun. Every successful growing season strengthened the cities rising among forests, mountains, and river valleys. The earliest great civilization of the Americas, the Olmec civilization, flourished because reliable maize harvests supported growing populations. Surplus food allowed artisans, priests, and rulers to specialize in their crafts, while enormous ceremonial centers emerged from the jungle, marking the beginning of organized urban life.
Centuries later, The Maya civilization transformed maize into the heart of both daily life and spiritual belief. Kings ruled magnificent cities surrounded by productive farmlands, while priests regarded maize as a sacred gift from the gods. According to their traditions, humanity itself had been created from maize dough, making the crop both a source of life and a symbol of divine creation. Farther west, the Zapotec civilization and later the Mixtec civilization built prosperous mountain cities supported by carefully managed agricultural terraces. Ingenious farming methods allowed maize to thrive even on steep hillsides, proving that human innovation could overcome difficult landscapes. As populations continued to grow, leaders recognized a simple truth: a well-fed society was a stable society. Communities organized irrigation, protected harvests, expanded storage facilities, and collected portions of maize as tribute or tax. Grain reserves became essential for surviving droughts, supporting public works, and maintaining political authority.
When the Aztec Empire rose to power, maize became the lifeblood of one of the largest civilizations in the Americas. Tribute flowed into the magnificent capital of Tenochtitlan from conquered provinces, filling vast storehouses that supplied soldiers, merchants, craftsmen, and hundreds of thousands of citizens. Far to the south, the Inca Empire cultivated maize across the Andes, using remarkable mountain terraces and sophisticated irrigation systems. Although potatoes remained essential in the highlands, maize was highly valued for ceremonies, feasts, and feeding state officials and armies, becoming a symbol of imperial prosperity. From the first ceremonial centers of the Olmec to the vast empires of the Maya, Aztec, and Inca, maize quietly sustained every stage of civilization's growth. It nourished rulers and laborers alike, fueled economic expansion, inspired religious traditions, and supported monumental achievements. Yet its journey was far from over. As trade networks expanded across the Americas, this extraordinary seed would begin connecting distant cultures, transforming entire continents through the simple exchange of goods.
As powerful civilizations flourished across the Americas, maize began a journey far beyond the valleys where it had first been domesticated. What started as a humble crop in southern Mexico spread through networks of merchants, travelers, and neighboring communities, quietly connecting cultures across an entire hemisphere. Long before roads of stone crossed great empires, traders carried baskets of maize, dried kernels, and valuable seeds along mountain trails, river systems, and coastal routes. Every journey helped introduce the crop to new lands, where local communities adapted it to their own climates and traditions. Across Mesoamerica, maize became more than a commodity. It became a shared language of survival. Farmers exchanged seeds with neighboring villages, selecting varieties that matured more quickly, resisted drought, or thrived in different soils. Each exchange strengthened both the crop and the civilizations that depended upon it.
As maize spread northward into what is now the southwestern United States, indigenous communities developed ingenious irrigation systems to cultivate the crop in dry desert landscapes. Farther east, fertile river valleys allowed maize agriculture to support growing settlements that would later become complex societies. To the south, maize traveled through Central America and into the Andes. There, the civilizations of Western South America adapted it to high mountain valleys and coastal plains. New farming techniques emerged, allowing maize to flourish alongside potatoes, beans, squash, and countless regional crops. Trade carried more than grain. Along with every sack of maize came knowledge, methods of planting, harvesting, storing, and preparing food. Communities shared tools, agricultural innovations, and cultural traditions, creating a vast network of cooperation that stretched across thousands of kilometers.
Markets became vibrant centers of exchange, where merchants traded maize alongside obsidian,
cacao, salt, textiles, feathers, jade, shells, and precious metals. Prosperous cities grew stronger by controlling these trade routes, recognizing that the movement of food was just as valuable as the movement of luxury goods. Then, in the late 15th century, history entered a new chapter. Following the arrival of Europeans in the Americas, maize crossed the Atlantic Ocean for the first time. Sailors carried its seeds to Europe, where farmers quickly recognized its remarkable productivity. Within a few generations, maize spread across Africa, Asia, and eventually nearly every inhabited continent. By the end of its extraordinary journey, maize had transformed from a regional crop into one of humanity's greatest global harvests. A single seed, first nurtured by ancient farmers in Mexico, now fed people across the world, connecting continents through agriculture, trade, and shared dependence. The grain that once created the civilizations of the Americas was becoming a foundation of global civilization itself.
As maize spread across continents and became one of the world's most valuable crops, it also became a source of wealth, competition, and power. What had once united communities through shared harvests increasingly became entangled with conquest, politics, and economic control. The seed that had nourished civilizations now stood at the center of struggles that would reshape the Americas. When droughts, floods, hurricanes, or prolonged periods of poor rainfall struck maize-growing regions, the consequences were immediate. Harvests failed, food stores dwindled, and communities faced hunger. A single unsuccessful growing season could weaken villages, disrupt trade, and threaten the stability of entire kingdoms. The rulers of great civilizations understood that controlling maize meant controlling society itself. State granaries stored enormous reserves to feed armies, laborers, and growing cities during times of scarcity. By managing the distribution of grain, leaders maintained order, strengthened loyalty, and reinforced their authority over millions of people.
Competition for fertile farmland intensified as populations expanded. River valleys, volcanic plains, and productive agricultural regions became strategic resources worth defending. Powerful states sought to secure the best growing lands, knowing that every successful harvest increased both their wealth and their military strength. The arrival of Europeans in the 16th century dramatically transformed this balance. Following the Spanish conquest of the Aztec and Inca empires, vast agricultural lands were brought under colonial control. Indigenous farming systems were reorganized, and maize production increasingly served the economic interests of colonial governments rather than the communities that had cultivated the crop for thousands of years. Maize itself became part of the Great Exchange that reshaped the global economy. As the crop spread throughout Europe, Africa, and Asia, it fed growing populations, supported expanding settlements, and became an essential resource for both people and livestock. Entire economies benefited from the extraordinary productivity first unlocked by the ancient farmers of Mesoamerica.
Yet behind every empire, colony, and expanding economy remained the quiet labor of ordinary farmers. Generation after generation, indigenous communities continued planting, tending, and harvesting maize using knowledge passed down over thousands of years. Their expertise sustained societies long before governments, markets, or global trade networks existed. Even in the modern era, maize remains deeply connected to political influence and economic power. It is traded across international markets, supports major industries, and plays a central role in food security, biofuels, and global agriculture. Decisions about its production affect economies far beyond the fields where it grows.
From a fragile wild grass growing in the valleys of ancient Mexico to one of the world's most strategic crops, maize has shaped the rise of civilizations, fueled empires, survived conquest, and transformed global history. The same seed that once sustained the first villages of the Americas continues to influence nations today, proving that true power often begins not with weapons or wealth, but with the ability to feed humanity.
As the centuries passed, maize entered a new chapter in its remarkable journey. No longer shaped solely by seasons, tradition, and the careful choices of farmers, it became the focus of scientific discovery. Humanity had begun to understand the hidden principles that governed life itself, and maize would become one of the world's most important crops for agricultural research. Botanists and early agricultural scientists carefully studied maize, comparing different varieties grown across the Americas. They observed differences in height, ear size, kernel color, drought tolerance, and resistance to disease. What ancient farmers had accomplished through generations of observation was now being examined through systematic experimentation. As knowledge of plant breeding advanced, researchers intentionally crossed different maize varieties to combine their strongest characteristics. Larger ears, stronger stalks, faster growth, and greater resilience became the goals of scientific cultivation. Each new generation of maize reflected not only nature's evolution, but also humanity's growing understanding of genetics.
The introduction of modern fertilizers transformed agricultural productivity. Nutrients removed from the soil by repeated harvests could now be replenished, allowing fields to produce far greater yields than ever before. Combined with improved irrigation systems, maize began thriving even in regions where reliable harvests had once seemed impossible. Mechanization changed farming forever. Tractors replaced animal labor, precision seeders planted millions of kernels with remarkable accuracy, and powerful combine harvesters gathered entire fields in a fraction of the time once required by hand. Agriculture entered an era of unprecedented efficiency, allowing fewer farmers to feed vastly larger populations. One of the greatest breakthroughs came with the development of hybrid maize in the 20th century. By carefully crossing selected parent plants, scientists produced varieties that yielded significantly more grain, matured more uniformly, and performed consistently under a wide range of growing conditions. These innovations dramatically increased food production and transformed global agriculture.
Maize also became one of science's most valuable research organisms. Because of its unique genetics and easily observable traits, researchers used maize to unlock fundamental principles of heredity, mutation, and chromosome behavior. Discoveries made while studying this humble crop helped shape modern genetics and influenced biological research around the world. Yet scientific progress also introduced new challenges. Intensive farming, dependence on chemical fertilizers, loss of genetic diversity, and large-scale monoculture raised concerns about environmental sustainability. Farmers and scientists increasingly recognized that maximizing production alone could not guarantee the long-term health of the land or the resilience of future harvests. By the end of this scientific revolution, maize had become far more than a staple food. It was a symbol of humanity's ability to combine ancient agricultural wisdom with modern innovation. From the first farmers who unknowingly transformed teosinte into maize, to today's genetic researchers and agricultural engineers, every generation had contributed to the continuing evolution of the seed that helped create the Americas, and now helped feed the world.
As humanity looks toward the future, one truth has become increasingly clear. The abundance created by maize cannot be taken for granted. The same seed that helped build civilizations now depends on careful protection, responsible farming, and global cooperation to survive the challenges ahead. Deep within secure seed banks around the world, thousands of maize varieties are carefully preserved. Each collection contains genetic diversity developed by generations of farmers, including ancient indigenous varieties that carry traits that may become essential for future agriculture. Every stored seed represents a piece of history and a possible solution to tomorrow's challenges.
Scientists now search beyond higher yields. Their goal is to develop maize varieties that can withstand drought, resist emerging diseases, tolerate extreme temperatures, and grow in changing environments. By studying the genetic information hidden within each seed, researchers hope to strengthen the crop without losing the diversity that made it successful for thousands of years.
Farmers are also returning to valuable lessons from the past. Across the Americas, many communities are combining traditional agricultural knowledge with modern science. Ancient practices such as crop diversity, companion planting, and careful soil management are being rediscovered as important tools for creating more resilient farming systems. Protecting maize also means protecting the land where it grows. Decades of intensive agriculture have shown that soil is not an unlimited resource. Healthy fields depend on balanced ecosystems, microorganisms, water conservation, and farming methods that allow the earth to recover while continuing to provide food. Around the world, researchers, farmers, and governments are working together to secure the future of maize. International exchanges of seeds, scientific discoveries, and agricultural strategies have become essential because food security in one region can influence stability everywhere.
Technology is becoming another powerful tool in this effort. Satellites monitor fields from above, artificial intelligence analyzes crop conditions, and advanced sensors help farmers use water and nutrients more efficiently. These innovations allow humanity to respond faster to environmental changes than any previous generation. Yet, even the most advanced technology cannot replace the fundamental relationship between humans, plants, and nature. Maize still depends on sunlight, water, soil, and the careful attention of those who cultivate it. The future of this ancient crop will be determined by how wisely humanity manages the resources that sustain all life. The story of maize began with ancient farmers saving a few seeds from one harvest to the next. Thousands of years later, that same responsibility continues. Preserving maize means preserving the history, knowledge, and survival of countless generations who built their lives around this remarkable plant. As the world moves forward, the protection of maize is not only about saving a crop, it is about protecting a living connection between the past and the future. The seed that created civilizations now carries the responsibility of helping future generations continue theirs.
In the quiet of a modern maize field, where endless rows of green and golden stalks move beneath the wind, it is easy to forget how ancient this landscape truly is. Yet beneath every leaf and every kernel exists a story that began thousands of years before written history, when humanity first discovered the hidden potential of a wild grass. From a small and nearly forgotten plant called teosinte, maize became one of the greatest achievements in human history. It was not created by a single inventor, nor transformed in a single moment. It was shaped by countless hands, countless harvests, and countless generations of people who carefully selected the seeds that would carry life forward. The rise of the America's greatest civilizations was deeply connected to this extraordinary crop. The first villages, the great ceremonial centers, the powerful kingdoms, and the vast empires all depended on the reliability of maize. It fed workers who built monuments, supported leaders who governed societies, and sustained communities across an entire hemisphere. Across thousands of years, maize traveled with humanity. It crossed mountains, deserts, forests, and oceans. It adapted to new climates, entered new cultures, and became part of the identity of millions of people.
Wherever maize arrived, it carried with it the memory of the ancient farmers who first believed that a tiny seed could become something greater. But the story of maize is not only about what humanity gained from this plant, it is also about the responsibility created by that relationship. Every variety preserved today, every traditional farming method protected, and every scientific discovery made for the future represents a promise to those who will come after us. The journey of maize reflects the journey of humanity itself. It reveals how observation became knowledge, how knowledge became agriculture, and how agriculture became civilization. The history of this seed is a reminder that the greatest transformations often begin with the smallest choices. When ancient farmers saved the strongest seeds from their harvests, they could not have known that their actions would influence the destiny of continents. They were not building empires or planning the future of humanity.
They were simply protecting the next season. Yet from that simple decision, an entire world emerged. Today, every tortilla, every meal, every field, and every harvest carries the legacy of those forgotten farmers. Their discovery continues to feed billions of people and reminds us that civilization is built not only through monuments and battles, but through patience, cooperation, and the quiet work of nurturing life.
Past, humanity and nature have always been connected. The future depends on respecting that relationship and protecting the seeds that have carried us this far. And so, the story returns to where it began, with a single seed. Not merely a grain of maize, but a living archive of human history, holding within it the memory of survival, innovation, culture, and hope for generations yet to come.